Hey toy fans, Rob here.
Let's get these guys out of the box and see what they're all about.
Hey toy fans, Rob here. I'm doing a video that's a little bit different from what I've done in the past. I just kind of want to roll slowly with you guys here through some stuff on my mind. I'd recently been cleaning up the den or the rec room here, as you see. I got my shelves reworked, and in the process of moving boxes and shifting things, I found a figure that has been missing in my collection for about a year or so now. And I was happy to find him again, Miles Morales. And as I was looking at this figure, I was thinking about the history of Miles Morales in the Marvel Legends line, and I thought, you know, that would be kind of a fun video, I think, is to just kind of look at all of the different versions of Miles that we've had. So of course, this is the version of Miles Morales that was in the Stiltman wave. He was tied into the first Sony Spider-Man Into the SpiderVerse movie. And if memory serves, this is the only version of Miles we got back in that wave. I think there was a Peter B. Parker and a Spider-Gwen that was really a repaint and slight retool of an existing teen girl mold. But with this Miles, we did get completely unique sculpting all the way around. You could tell as you looked at his costume that they had maybe intended, Hasbro had, to give us a full costume Miles Morales Spider-Man, but it just didn't happen with the first movie. But this is still a look he had in the movie, an iconic look with his double jackets and his shorts and the not Jordans that he's wearing on his feet. But I mean, this was Miles. If you saw the movie, there's no mistaking that this was Miles. But this was not the first Miles Morales figure that we received in the Marvel Legends line. And really, the first Miles that we received wasn't even part of Marvel Legends. It was actually part of a Walmart exclusive line of figures. I want to say in 2012, around the time that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was in theaters. This, I'm pretty sure, was our first Miles Morales figure that we ever received, and boy, is it a mess. This figure was a hodgepodge of a lot of different things. We were early enough in the Hasbro days that they were still using the Toy Biz era. Some people call it the Bullseye mold. I think of it as the Havoc mold because I'm an X-Men collector. As you can see, the upper torso here is the same torso that the Toy Biz Havoc had utilized. And for Miles, it just looks a little big. His head only swivels. It doesn't really look up or down. It's very limited in articulation. And then in the lower half of the figure, I don't know what body they grabbed here. We have these really awkward ball joints that don't allow you to move the hips very well. But then the leg actually gets smaller as it goes down. It's almost like a shorter knee to shin here. And then the foot is just super tiny. But this was it, man. When Miles Morales had debuted in the comics, this was the first Marvel Legends scale figure and Marvel Legends offshoot figure for Miles. And I do believe he came with a web shield that snapped onto his wrist, similar to how Captain America's shields work. I don't have that. I let my son have this figure many years ago, and that accessory is lost to time. But this is it. If you want the first version of Miles, I'm not saying it's worth tracking down or even paying a lot for. It's pretty rough. But that is Miles Morales. And the first proper Miles, I would say, that we got in the line was during the Space Venom wave. We have this version of Miles here. He came with an unmasked head, which is nice. The original Miles figure did not have that. But this Miles also has a repaint of the Mark Bagley style mask that came with Ultimate Spider-Man, which was also in this same wave. This, of course, just pops off. It's a ball joint. You can pull the head off and stick it right on the figure. This Miles came with a set of interchangeable hands. I believe he had crawling hands and thwipping hands. He might have had fists too. I've got a lot of Miles hand accessories, as you'll see here, but I don't have them labeled with what goes with which figure. But yeah, this was a pretty great, like, true first introduction to Miles, a better one. It's got the teen body mold, which was new at the time, and it's got, you know, comic accurate painting. He didn't have the shield accessory, he didn't have any web accessories, he had nothing to kind of illustrate that his powers or electricity or turning invisible. But yeah, this was the first proper Miles, part of that Space Venom wave. So for many people, that was probably the Miles we've been holding on to for a long time. It was actually several years after this figure before we got our next Miles, and I do believe the next one that we received was the Gamerverse Miles figure. This Miles figure looks very similar to his comic book look. They kind of kept that consistent in the game. You'll notice he's actually taller than the standard teen body comic book Ultimate Miles figure. He's taller than the Miles from the Into the SpiderVerse film. He's taller even than the Walmart exclusive Amazing Spider-Man 2 Miles figure. So the tallest one in the line. Unlike the previous Miles figures, we did get some accessories with this one. Both hands are capable of being electrified. He did have thwipping hands at least. I think he might have had wall crawling hands. Nope, looks like he just, well, actually it's hard to say. I've got these wall crawling hands. They could be for the Spider-Man 2 figure. I'd have to match the paint. But he had a decent range of accessories. He also had an unmasked head that resembled Miles from that game. Let's see if we can find it here. Okay, so there we go. We have Miles with his unmasked head on. And then they didn't actually give us a civilian Miles head the second time they released this figure for the second game. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one right now. This is the Miles for the second Spider-Man video game, the Insomniac one. You'll notice his electricity powers went from yellow to blue. That's actually story related in the game. And then other than that, it's pretty much a lot of reuse, I believe, except for on the arms here. He had the stripe going all the way down his arm in the second game, where he didn't have that happening in the first game. My Miles also happens to have a factory error. He's got the wrong bicep. He has two left biceps, and you can see here that that's the inside of the arm on that side. I've just had to live with that since I got the figure. But when the second Spider-Man figure came around, fortunately, he has the right arm, or the correct arms on both sides of his body. But it was, other than that, it was pretty much the same Miles figure, but still kind of interesting to see how the evolution of the figure has kind of moved forward. Let me get focused here. Okay, and then the next Miles we probably want to look at is leading into the SpiderVerse. But as you can see, this Miles figure, he does have a little bit of paint. He's got the red stripe on the inside of his arms and the inside of his body. He's got the logo from the second film. He's actually got some sculpted detail on the mask, but they kind of lose that detail on the rest of the body. It really is just a smooth body for the rest of the figure. And then, of course, articulation-wise, he's only got bends at the elbows and at the knees. Nope, not at the knees, at the hips. And his head will rotate left and right. So, for what it is an accurate representation of the way he looks in the film. But if you compare it to the Marvel Legends figure that came out at the time that had a lot more textured detail and had some blue paint spray on the body, this one does look a little more plain, but I think it still works for what it is. I don't have the Miles from Across the Spider-Verse, the original release of that figure, but I do have the Series 2 version of the figure, which was a re-release, not really a re-release, but it was our chance to finally get full costumed Miles from the first film. And as you can see here, these figures are the same height, and of course they should be. And if you compare them, the tooling or the sculpted detail, the torso piece is the exact same between both figures, but that's really all that they were able to reuse. The feet couldn't be reused. The legs actually mold into the top of the shoe, so they couldn't even reuse from the knee down. And this Miles figure, I don't know if it's coming across on the camera, does actually have more fine sculpted detail on and texture on the legs for this costume. So, oh, the wrist communicator thing did not actually come with this Miles. My daughter just likes to put it on that figure. And then let's take a look at our most recent Miles figure. I just picked this one up. This is from the Marvel Legends comic book wave. This Miles is shorter than the Across the Spider-Verse version, which kind of surprises me. But as far as articulation goes, it's certainly the most articulated Miles we've received so far. And when you consider that this is where we started and this Miles is where we're at now, we've seen a lot of improvement between these figures. As you can see, the costume detail is much better. This Miles, I don't know if it's coming across on the camera, but he's got a lot of like finite textured detail on his costume where this Miles didn't have that. This Miles also came with multiple hands, interchangeable hands, and an accessory that, of course, allowed you to actually have him hold one of his #1 issues. This isn't the first issue of Miles ever, but it is a _1 comic book cover that comes with that Miles. He also has an interchangeable mask, as does the Across the Spider-Verse version, or excuse me, the Into the Spider-Verse version. I suppose I should have shown that off. But there we go, we have Miles masked. So let me go ahead and mask up this Miles. This one's a little bit different than the other ones. He has a double peg system in the neck, but you can just go ahead and pop his head on, and there we go. So, yeah, a little bit of a slower paced video, but I thought it would be fun to take a look at all of the different Miles figures. How many of these figures do you guys have? I never really planned on having this many Miles figures under one roof. But here we are, you know, just as the years go by, they release another one. You're a fan of the games, or you're a fan of the different movies. In the case of the first Miles, I was just so excited to see that a Miles figure existed that I had to pick him up. But of course now, I don't know why you'd really want this figure aside from the novelty of having the first Miles Morales figure that was ever made, or at least the first 6-inch scale. So yeah, guys, just let me know in the comments. What's your favorite Miles figure? Which ones have you picked up? Do you have Into the Spider-Verse? Do you have the new comic book one? Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.